Okay. So.
Ouch. And no, because it's repeating itself. Okay, so we are live. Precy's here. Hi, Precy. Okay, so that's got a little wider vision on that.
It's wider and it's not quite as low down.
Well, do you want me to put it lower?
Well, I don't care. It's up to you.
Well, I'll leave it like that. I think it's okay for now. So, Precy, can you hear us okay? Catherine's here. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Julie.
I'm trying to figure out where.
Well, you got to go into YouTube.
Yeah, if I can find YouTube on this stupid iPad.
Oh, well, geez. Should have been prepared.
I was busy.
Laura's here. Hi, Laura. Hi, Andy.
Oh, there we go.
Walter's just trying to hook up his iPad. We're doing this in a different format, and we're hoping that, well, one good thing is we were able to connect today to YouTube. Last weekend, YouTube was down on the Eastern Seaboard. Figures right at the time that we were doing everything. Catherine says sound is fine. That's good. So we are actually broadcasting this from our iPhone today as opposed to from the iPad. Reason being is we're thinking that maybe some of those freeze-ups are caused by the CPU processor in the iPad. The one in my iPhone is actually faster, and there's more memory on my iPhone than there is on my iPad. Go figure, right? So we're going to try it this way and see how this works today, and hopefully all will be well.
Actually, it's kind of interesting that what we see on the picture there,
Yeah,
and what we see here. Notice we see the counter here, and then we don't see.
the counter.
Look at, I can see the counter.
Oh,
on
the
here.
counter.
This counter.
Yes.
On their broadcast, but I can't see it on the iPhone.
Oh, no, that's true. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I don't know. It's everything's always. I got to turn mine around so I can use my stand here. But, oops. Okay, let's get self-organized here. Okay, so we'll see how this goes today. So last week in our almost live, we said we were changing our format. We were going to, do things that are more thematic and maybe a little less about us and what we've been doing for the week, because that's kind of boring. Hi, Julie. And so last week we talked about gay life, our gay life, to a certain extent. Some things that we didn't like, the stereotypes and that. And we're going to carry on with that this week, but we're going to get into a little bit more technical about things. That's why we call it Shades of Gay. But before we do that, and we're hoping you will join in the conversation with your questions or with your comments and things like that. Hi, Cindy. And anyways, before we do that, just a little update on different things. My mother's getting teeth. Yeah. She had a denturist come in and look at her. I guess that's what you call them, a denturist. I don't know, a denture specialist, whatever they are. Came in to see her, and she definitely needs to have dentures. There's no two ways about it. She only has 9 teeth. Oh, what?
No, I was going to say I thought she had 6 teeth, but I guess so.
No, she has 9. 6 of them need to be pulled. 3 of them can be filled. But whatever. So he's coming in, and I guess he comes in again tomorrow. He's doing the fittings and whatnot, and we'll see how that goes. But generally speaking, I hope it all works out all right, because really, they say that if your teeth are not good, it can affect your overall immune system, your health in general. So, and my mother's teeth have not been good for a long, long time because she didn't have insurance to start with. So, but we're working around all that. Hi, Virginia. And Laura says, yes, it is Pride Week after all. Actually, it's Pride Month in June. All over North America, actually. June is the official month for it. We can talk a little bit about that a little later on. Sewing classes, I'm still doing the pineapple quilt class. We were supposed to do a long arm class yesterday, but it's been put off now until the 20th because the lady who teaches this course, she called me on Friday and asked if we could change the date because there's the Canadian National Quilt Show is happening next week in Ottawa. We're going. And she has to take her equipment with her there because she has a business and I guess she has a booth or whatever there. So I said, sure, no problem. And actually probably worked out better because didn't really feel like doing it yesterday anyways. And
really nice day yesterday.
it was a really nice day yesterday. Yeah, not the best day to be inside learning how to use a long arm.
Okay.
What?
I just got brain freeze.
Well, brain freeze. We're drinking frozen margaritas that Walter made from scratch. So, anyways, that's so we're not taking a long arm class until the 20th. And I worked the bar at the art gallery on Friday night. They called me to be bartender, and I've done that once before, and I kind of like it. But it was kind of the crowd wasn't that big Friday night because one, the weather was nice, and apparently there's this team here in Toronto area called the Raptors that are in the big NBA finals, which means very little to me because we don't follow it, but I guess it's a big thing if you do follow basketball. So people were either out enjoying the weather or enjoying the Raptors, one or the other. So I didn't make as many tips this time. I think I made only $35 in tips, whereas last time I made about $95 in tips. But anyways, doesn't really matter. I don't really do it to make hordes of money because you never make hordes of money doing that. I just do it because I kind of like doing it. Okay, so that's what we've been up to on TV. We just finished watching, we blitzed it on Prime, something called Good Omens. Not sure whether or not we can recommend it. What do you think?
I don't know if you like really weird stuff.
It is very weird.
You might like it. I don't know. It might have been even too weird for me.
Well, it's hard to describe what it is, but it's basically end of world scenario, except the forces of good and the forces of evil. Well, the devil and one of the archangels are kind of in league together to avoid the end of the world. Something. It's a comedy. It's just kind of bizarre. It's very weird. It's British. The one guy what's his name? David Tennant, who played Doctor Who for a while, and he's the devil. Or actually, neither one's a devil or God. One's a demon and the other one's an angel. And the one that plays an angel is this guy. I forget his name. He's been in lots of stuff. You'd probably recognize him if you see the series. He's been in things like what was that? Kinsey Report or
Masters of Sex.
Masters of Sex. That's right.
And he's been on a few other shows.
Yeah. Laura says, well, Game 5 in Toronto, so if they win in Toronto, it's going to be wild. Yeah, and Tracy says if Toronto wins, Trump will lose it. You mean he hasn't lost it already? My opinion, I thought he lost it before he ever had it. But anyways, so, yep. And we're going next week to the Canadian Quilt Show. We're going to drive to Ottawa on Wednesday, stay a couple of nights, come back on Friday, and check that all out. So kind of looking forward to that. Oh, Brenda's here. Hi, Brenda. And Laura says, yes, we have health care and the NBA champs.
However, we don't have dental care.
No, we don't have universal dental.
You have to get that covered under a separate plan, your own plan.
Yeah. And see, actually, my mother's new teeth, to go back to that one, aren't really that bad in price. I was expecting it could be as much as $10,000, but it wasn't. It's only just slightly over $3,000. So that's pretty good, considering she doesn't have any insurance. So anyways, okay, so I don't know, anything else to talk about this week?
We also watched that other show,
What other show?
no, I can't remember the name of it. You know, the one with
No, I don't.
all right, okay, I can't remember.
When
now.
did we watch this?
You know, the one with the Netflix one, What If or What If.
Oh, What If? Oh, yeah. That one's really kind of interesting. Actually, it's pretty good. He'd already started watching it before I did, and then I caught up. And what was it about?
It's about this woman that needs funding for her health care thing, right? And she's kind of down and out. Her parents have loaned her all kinds of money. And this rich benefactress came in and said that she would give them $80 million if she could spend one night with
One
her
husband, yeah, sort of a fatal attraction
Yeah,
or,
like
or
a
indecent proposal.
Indecent
or-
proposal type thing.
And it goes on from there. It's actually kind of good.
And it's very twisted.
Yeah, it's very twisted, that's for sure. So that's called What If. It's on Netflix. Laura says, I just had an MRI on my knee and not a penny was spent except for a coffee. Which is good, and it's one of the benefits of living in Canada. Right,
Yeah.
Laura?
But just don't get, you have to go get your mouth fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, just don't get your, yeah, you're okay as long as you don't have to have your teeth fixed. But anyways, okay, so I think that's all the little chit-chat pieces for today. And so we can get into the main event. So we called this Shades of Gay. Last week we were talking about ageism in the gay world. You know, as you become an older gay man, it's really geared, much of society is geared towards the younger people. And we had mentioned the YouTube channel called Into More, where they interviewed some older gay men and talked about how they perceive the world at their age now, how things have changed since they were younger. And then they were asking them all kinds of things about the stereotypes of being gay and how people who are not in the gay world have their stereotypes, and even people within the gay world sometimes are their own worst enemies because they play the stereotypes, or they tend to, like, if you're over 40, for example, in the gay world, you might as well be dead. Of course, I think that's probably something that a lot of the young people feel in any part of the world anymore.
Look what happened at the art gallery.
Oh yeah, just as an aside, I have been a victim of ageism at the art gallery, where I was doing the bartending, and where, you know, we used to volunteer until they got rid of the education department, pretty much. Well, they didn't get rid of the department; they got rid of us that were the volunteers. But this person who has taken over the volunteers and other jobs there, I got asked way back, this is last fall, if I could work as a bartender to help out at one of these special events. And it was their big fundraiser of the year kind of a thing. And this new person didn't want me to do it because he felt that I wouldn't be able to keep up. And basically what he meant was at my age. Because I'm over 60, I wouldn't be able to keep up. And I just looked at it
And
and
we
thought,
ended up, even with my volunteer position, we ended up finishing. We had some obligations that we had arranged through the previous person that was employed in that position, right? Till the end of the year. And we fulfilled those obligations. And the guy that now organizes it, that took over from the lady that was doing it before, has decided that he has never ever contacted us again to do any volunteer activities.
no.
Because, and we had heard since you heard on Friday, that this guy really only likes to employ young people.
Yeah, but actually I was having some discussions with some other people too on Friday and whatnot, and it seems to me that the people that are now mostly employed at the art gallery, the permanent staff, they're all young. They all have this attitude that they know best, in their 20-some years of experience, 30-some years of experience, that there's no place for us older people anymore, because what would we know? Well, we wouldn't know anything. Like, we all at 29 you get Alzheimer's. I don't know.
We live in the past.
And quite frankly, we're not volunteering there anymore because you get belittled and you get used. They're snotty.
Well, we haven't really unofficially, if tomorrow they called up and said they really needed somebody, we might think about it, or I might, but they haven't done that. So.
No, they haven't done that. And there were some new volunteers there, and quite frankly, they hired all the young and stupid ones because they didn't have a clue what they were doing.
And they had to ask direction. In fact, they were asking direction from us.
Yeah. And I said, sorry, not my job. Go ask this other person who's in charge of it. And that's what it was. I could have told them something, but it wasn't my place to do so. And there's a person there that's supervising them. It's the same idiot that is the ageist I'm talking about. And, you know, it's funny. I had a very high respect for the art gallery when I first started volunteering there. And now that's just gone down. And that's because of personnel changes they've had there. And quite frankly, the art they've had in there lately.
Well, the installations they have in there this week, I dropped Steve off for his bartending job, and then later on came picked him up again. And I was there a little early to help out to clean up the bar and stuff. And I walked around the art gallery, and the installations they have in there are extremely poor right now.
Yeah. So really, if you come to our area, I don't necessarily recommend visiting our art gallery. It's gonna be it is free though, so if you want
I
something
mean, the
free.
permanent installation was still okay, but the other two that they have now, it really, like, since I've been there, now since the curator has since changed from an older lady to, that had 20 years of experience, 25
over
years.
25 years of experience doing it.
To somebody much younger now, and maybe she doesn't have the connections or something like that because of the stuff they have in there now.
Yeah. Makes us sound like a couple of old men, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, in our day, and these young whippersnappers, they don't know what they're doing, but I don't care. They really don't know. These millenniums haven't got a clue about anything. And I don't know. It gets me upset thinking about it, and that's okay, whatever. I don't own the art gallery. I was just a volunteer. Fine. I will continue to work bar when they need me, because that's not a volunteer position.
Has the attendance at the art gallery gone down since the
Diaper Brigade took over.
Actually, we have no idea.
We have no idea about that whatsoever. We don't see the statistics, and frankly, we don't go over there as often as we used to, so we don't know. I know that there wasn't a great attendance on Friday night, but that is typical of June if the weather's nice, because they don't do it again until September. They close it down for July and August as far as this RMG Fridays.
Because they used to run it over the summer, but
Yeah.
they just didn't have any attendance because in Canada, in our area anyway, a lot of people are on holidays in the summertime, and a lot of people if they have a cottage, they take time off in the summer to go to their cottages and stuff like that. So the population in the cities aren't quite necessarily as robust as they normally are.
Yeah, Virginia says, I felt that ageism attitude my last couple of years of teaching before I retired. My principal was only 2 years younger than I was. Yeah, I actually worked with an administrator. She was a VP who basically I could have been her father. And she knew everything. She'd had 4 years of teaching under her belt, and she had just gotten into a position of vice principal. Really? Little young for vice principal. But that's the way it goes in education these days. There's ones who want to be teachers, and there's ones who see a classroom as a stepping stone to administration and beyond. And they only want to be in the classroom for as little time as they possibly can be in. And that's kind of sad, because I think really if you're going to be a decent administrator, you need to be a decent teacher.
Anyway,
But-
so we got sidetracked.
Yeah, we got sidetracked. That wasn't this wasn't today's issue, although that's a very interesting topic, and maybe we will revisit it on future broadcasts. So today we want to talk about shades of gay. Now, what do we mean by shades of gay? Well, last week we talked about labels. There's a whole lot of labels being floated around in our society today that
Didn't exist until a few years ago.
only a few years ago. Yeah, really. And they are very confusing. And I want to say from the outset, first of all, one of the problems in the gay world, and possibly in the world anywhere, is as soon as you start to label something, and there's always exceptions to the label, and then people are always trying to pigeonhole other people into a label. They're always trying to explain why people are the way they are, why people do what they do, why people think the way they think, or what their attitude is, according to a label. And I think any smart person realizes that we are not black and white. You know, everything is a shade of gray. That people fit on a spectrum, not in nice little neat boxes and compartments. However, having said that, and to bring it back to today's issue, the gay world especially has a lot of labels, and a lot of these labels are misunderstood by people who are not part of the gay world, and even those in the gay world. So today we thought we would discuss some of these, and also discuss them in terms of how we define them. Now, have a disclaimer at the beginning of this. we may not be describing some of these terms exactly as the way they would be defined by psychologists, sociologists, and that kind of thing. We're defining these terms with some of that in mind, but also in what we have observed.
Observed, experienced,
Yeah.
Our viewpoints, which may not be exactly.
But does
correct.
that make us more right? Yeah, actually, I think it does. You know why I say that? Is because we live it. Okay? These scientists and sociologists and psychologists, not to say that there's some of them aren't part of the gay world, but they don't necessarily look at it from an experiential point of view. They look at it from a, what do you want to call it, a scientific point of view, scientific methods use, a little experiment, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to try and humanize some of these terms for you, and at the same time discuss how we feel about them as well. And at any moment you want, jump right in, with your
talk.
thoughts or questions. Some of these are very confusing. So I want to start off with the one thing that's really, really confusing, and that's something that's called LGBTTIQ2SA. Yeah, all those letters. It used to be the gay world was called the LGBT, just LGBT, period. Just those four letters. Then it got extended to LGBTQ. Then that got extended into all these other terms. So now we have this thing that's got almost every letter in the alphabet in it that's supposed to represent the gay community. Okay? And that's one of the things.
Actually, it's supposed to represent other than heterosexual.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. So we're going to take these terms apart for you. Now, I'm sure everybody is familiar with LGBT. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. Okay? That's probably the basis of all of this stuff. And that's, for some reason, what the gay community became known as. So let's talk about this in terms of the spectrum between being, people think you're either straight or you're gay. There's a term right there, straight. What does straight mean? Okay? I don't think, before the gay world became as predominant as today, I don't think many people really refer to themselves as being straight. Okay? Actually, when you think about it, why is that word even used? Now, the word that they want to use now is it heteronormative? Which I don't like that word either.
Was it
Cisgender. Well, no, that means that doesn't have anything to do with gay. That's another term. I don't want to get into that one because that one confuses me. But, hi, Anita. So, straight. Why are people who are not homosexual, I hate the word homosexual as well, but it's actually the clinical term, okay? Homo meaning same, okay? Same sex, whatever. So why do we use the word straight for people who are heterosexual? Well, we do, for some reason. Why do we use the word gay for homosexual? I'm really not sure.
Well, actually, we're not 100% sure, actually, with saying all this stuff, what the origins of all those words necessarily are.
No, don't know where really the gay came from. I mean, I remember when the word gay used to mean happy. So maybe it was a word that started off as being a slang definition.
Laura's going two-spirit in there, too.
Yeah, we're coming to the two-spirit, Laura. Oh, believe me, we're coming to the two-spirited, too, because this one will blow your mind. But anyways, what I'm saying is, we have, right off the bat, we have two major labels in our society. If you're not gay, you're straight. If you're not straight, you're gay. Okay, doesn't work that way. All right? So, think of this as a line. And the most straight person in the world would probably be what I want to call the hyper-masculine, and I'm going to say male, okay? And I am going to talk about this from a male perspective because how can we talk about it from a lesbian perspective? Because we're not lesbians, although we'll try to involve them in these terms. So you're very tough, masculine, strong, stereotype, weightlifting, sport watching, get me another beer woman, wife beater shirt guy. That's hyper masculine. You could probably put in there a few other terms like misogynistic, sexist, all that kind of stuff. Now, think about it in your own lives. How many males do you really know that fit that definition? That extreme, okay? We're talking about an extreme. An extreme that's a stereotype, actually. I don't know too many men that fit that category, okay? The other end of the spectrum is extreme feminine or effeminate behavior by a male going around and going, oh, girls, it's raining out. I can't go out. I'll melt. Oh, my God. No, look at those window dressings. They're just horrible. What was she thinking about what she was wearing? Oh. Okay? That's another stereotype. But that falls under the umbrella of being gay. Okay? Something wrong with that. There are effeminate men who are not gay. Okay? I know a lot of men.
Laura's asking about the Kinsey scale.
Oh, the Kinsey scale is 1 to 10 on gayness. Okay? The Kinsey scale is stupid. The Kinsey report was stupid. It's out of the Kinsey report where we got the whole definition in the early 50s that 10% of the population is possibly gay. Actually, if the truth be known, they say that number is as high as 25%. And some actually say that it's higher than that, and that depends on how you define gay.
It depends on how you perceive gay.
Yeah. So, yeah. But the Kinsey report did a lot of damage to the gay world. But they were the first ones out there that actually tried to clinically, by doing interviews with men who were supposedly gay, and of course a lot of these interviews had to be done secretively because these guys, it was the 50s. So how was that going to go? The one thing the Kinsey report did help do, but it came years later, was get the diagnosis of being homosexual.
We're getting complicated here because somebody's asking about somebody came out as transgender. Is this bisexual?
Okay,
no.
That's no.
The
answer
to that is no, right?
Okay, yeah, no, and yes, no. We're going to come to that. That's a really good question. Okay, so I'm just going back up here for a second, all right, and then we'll get into the juicy stuff. Kinsey report was actually responsible, or at least contributed to getting homosexuality removed from the American Psychological Association's list of mental diseases. And I think that was removed in about 1970 or something something like that. It might have been earlier, but I'm not sure. Anyways, the Kinsey report pretty much wasn't worth the paper it was written on, but it was the first study ever done into human sexuality, looking at homosexuality versus heterosexuality. So there's a lot more to it than that, but I'm not a psychologist, but I know a little bit about it because in my psych courses I took in university, that was one of the things that was there that I had to do. Hi, Carol, or Xandra, who's here? Hello, Xandra 3. Where's Xandra 3? Okay, so if we miss one of your comments or your questions, okay, let us know. We'll come back to it if we don't touch on it when we talk about this. All right, so let's start with straight. Let's put gay, what we are. We are gay. We are probably in the middle ground by definition. We are not flaming little femmes.
Okay, so what's the definition of gay? Well, my definition of gay is that when I was much younger and everything else, that I suddenly realized that I became sexually attracted to men. That men seem to invoke a more of a adherence to that feeling of looking pleasing to me. I don't know how you best describe that, right? And that wasn't necessarily a sexual thing. That was something that happened to me when I was about 8. That I realized that I seemed to be attracted more to men than I was attracted to women.
Yeah.
And as I got older, it became more increased on that to a point where I decided at one point in time that like I fought it and everything else. And at one point in time, I decided that wasn't really a decision that I was more attracted to men than I was to women. So I figured I was gay.
So that brings up the whole thing about nurture and nature, and that's a discussion for another day. But basically, and the same with me is I don't know how to be straight. I've always been gay. I mean, from day one of birth, I was gay. But I didn't have the language for it, of course. When you're only 2 years old, 3 years old, you don't have a language for it. And it develops over time. And you do fight it, too. But that's a discussion a little ways from
we
this.
fought it probably more because of the age or the year,
that's
the time we were growing up.
Society affects all of that as well. But yes, we are, I would say, on the spectrum, we are probably dead in the middle. And that's where I would put a vast majority of gay men. They are men, and they are gay because they like other men. And this goes beyond just being sexual, okay? This has some more to do with, and this is hard to define it, but it's not just sexual, it's emotional, it's mental, it's psychological as well. It's all of those things combined. We just feel more comfortable in the presence of other gay men, not necessarily in the presence of straight men. Okay, there's a difference. And this is where the grays come in. For example, we're not into sports. Okay, now that's a stereotype that gay men don't like sports. They'd rather be cooking or sewing. All right, so I guess I follow a stereotype. Yes. I would rather be sewing.
We do know gay men that are into sports.
We know gay men who play hockey. We know gay men who love football. We know gay men who right now are just ripping their eyeballs out all over the Raptors and the whole bit like that.
We know guys that are into camping and fishing and construction and everything else, and they're all gay.
Yeah, and that's the hypermasculinity aspect. So there are gay men who...
Sorry.
Right. Who do things that are traditionally thought of as being gay.
Men.
Yeah.
Straight.
Boy, you don't really have any bartending experience, do you?
What?
Should come around this side instead of blocking the camera.
Okay, sorry.
But whatever. So, but at the same time, and we said this last week on the Almost Live one thing that really gets our goat as gay men is when somebody asks us, and these are more or less people who are extremely rude and you don't want to give them the time of day anyways, who say, so which one plays the woman? We're not playing at anything, okay? This isn't role playing. Neither one of us plays woman. And I guess, and then you get the ones that are more subtle, and we talked about this. Like, well, who does the cooking? That's a good question. They always ask that one. Who does the cooking? We both do. Primarily Walter, but whatever. But the idea, what they're coming out to, is without saying to you directly who plays the woman, they figure the one that says he likes to cook more than the other, he's probably the woman. Okay, you got to get rid of that. I enjoy being a man. And that's where the term cisgender comes in. Cisgender means that you represent that which you were born as. I was born with the parts of a male. I am a male. I am a cisgendered gay male. Okay? Now you can see now we're getting into compounds here with terms and how it gets a little bit more complicated. Don't ask me who came up with the term cisgender. I don't get it. But anyways, I'm a guy. I like being a guy. But I also like other guys, so I am gay. Okay, that's the simple version of it. And the same with Walter, I guess. I assume.
Yeah.
So, if we've got the hyper-masculine at one end, the extreme feminine at the other end, and we got us in the middle as being like pretty much pure gay guys, okay, in what we've already said, then what do we got around us? Okay, let's go towards the hyper-masculine side. There are people in our society that consider themselves pansexual.
Well, I think you're better off going to bisexual.
Okay, all right, fine. Bisexual. So what's bisexual? We didn't used to believe bisexuals actually existed. We just thought they were greedy.
Well, bisexuals, in my opinion, are usually guys that are, or actually men or women, that tend to identify initially more with the opposite sex, right? So they are usually people that tend to identify more with being with the opposite sex, so a man with a woman with a man type of thing. But they have also found they're sexually attracted to the opposite sex, but have found that they do have a sexual attraction, or like the sex act attraction to same sex. Does that make any sense?
Okay. They're like everybody.
They like men. Well, not necessarily equally. Bisexual sometimes is that they like women more, but they also like men. So, or they like the opposite sex more, but they also have an interest in men.
Okay, now I'll give you my definition.
Okay.
Out of experience. That is closer to probably what the real definition for bisexual is. Basically, that they are sexually attracted to either sex. It depends on the circumstances, their mood, how they may be feeling at any given moment in time. Okay? Bisexuals, and we know many bisexuals, and I'm talking men, really, I think, are men who are actually gay. But because of the time period when they were born, their family life, their contact, or the effect society has had on them, they have not been able to give up what they might call the heteronormative way of life completely. Bisexuals often are in the closet. They don't necessarily make a lot of people know that they are bisexual. Although it has become popular lately for that word to pop up again. But I guess basically these, in my definition of bisexual, they are basically gay men trapped in a straight man's world. And they don't have enough, I don't want to say guts, but there isn't enough impotence for them to cross over and become what they might desire to really be, like their true self.
Well, they don't dislike being in the straight world as much as the fear of being in the gay world.
Mm-hmm. So it's got a little politics in there too.
Yeah.
But now a newer term, which kind of helps out these bisexual people, is pansexual. Pansexual kind of means everybody. You know, they don't necessarily discriminate by sex in who they're attracted to. They're maybe, you could say on a positive side, they're more attracted to an individual according to their personality. If they happen to be, the pansexual person happens to be male, and the person they're attracted to is of the same sex, that's okay. But if they're attracted to somebody who's of the opposite sex, that's okay too. Because they're attracted to that person beyond the sexual part. There's something about that person personality-wise that makes them fall in love with them. So it's a little bit more fluid, I think. Again, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess it depends on the individual. There was another term, it's an older term, but I think that people have stopped using this, metrosexual. And I think that tends to have been replaced by pansexual, except that I think metrosexual is also being used to talk about men who dressed very trendy. That's what gay men do, stereotype, and tend to be friends with lots of women, tended to be very non-misogynistic, or in appearances, in the way they treated women and stuff like that. But at the same time, were very much part of the straight man world. So they were referred to as metrosexual, and I think that term is dead.
Presley says metrosexuals are heteros that dress nice.
Yeah. I think that term has gone out the window now.
Presley also said the 14th week of gestation is when sexuality is created.
Yeah, it's a birth thing. Don't have to convince me about
And
that.
Sudoku is saying all these labels are making my head hurt. Yes, I
Yeah.
believe so because they make my head hurt.
Yeah, I should have drawn you a chart. But that's actually I was going to draw a chart, but you can't chart this stuff.
And then Cheryl says that, they may be living a double life, sort of. Yes. There's a lot of bisexual men that are living a double life. A lot of times they're men that have families, have a wife, they love their wife very much, and all this other stuff, but they have a sexual side.
Yeah, we know several that are like that. And actually, in some ways, I pity them because they are kind of lost guys. In the sense that they're trapped between two worlds. You know, they have someone in their life that they've had children with, they care about them, they love them, they respect them, and at the same time they have this pull towards, you know, the same sex too. So it's got to be quite a quandary for them to work out. I know for one of our friends right now, he's going through an awful lot because of some things that his wife is going through, and he's bisexual. And he's having a hard time right now with it all because he's afraid he's going to lose his wife.
Well, actually, last I talked to him, he identified as being gay, but he still lives with his wife and his kids, and he pretends to be straight.
Yeah, so you know, that's a hard world. I mean, it's easier to be one or the other than it is to be in between. So, what's the priest says? Finger length is set at 14th week gestation. Lesbians and tomboys have longer ring fingers than their partners. Okay, Précy, those are all wives' tales.
Old
about
wives' tales. That's the whole thing about the man's penis length is a man
correlates
has large
to his
penis length if he has
big feet.
Absolutely no correlation.
I like this one though. See if you get it. Tall men, short men. Think about it. Précy says no, it's true.
I don't know. I don't believe you.
Well, I don't know. Cite the study and the whole bit. I mean, I'm not saying that it isn't. There have been things out there where they've tried to make these correlations. But you want to know something? I have a feeling you can find, for every one of those things that might be true, I think you can find one that isn't true for that. So I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Actually, does it matter? I mean, I don't think it matters, because what does that mean then? If you could change the length of their finger, could you change their sexuality? I mean,
so what's about the finger length?
Well, Précy says, lesbians and tomboys have longer ring fingers than their pointers. Well, I'm not a lesbian.
No, my ring finger is much shorter than my pointer finger.
Actually, mine are almost the same. Well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe mine are about the same.
Oh no, my ring fingers are longer.
But we're not lesbians or tomboys. So I don't know how that works. Interesting.
I have to look at everybody's fingers now.
Yeah, Anita says, I thought that metro term may have also been applied to career-wise and professional gay men. Metrosexual was not applied to gay men, to my knowledge.
No, actually, it was more when I worked in business. There was a couple of guys that dressed very trendy, and some people in some ways thought they might be gay, but I knew they weren't gay.
Well, here's a little funny aside about the idea of like that gay men dress well. I remember back when at one of my schools, I was head of many years ago in the 90s. I get my vice principal at the time, who was a bit of a prick. Actually, not a bit. He was a big prick. I got a new member into my department, and I found out from her that he had said to her, well, you know that your department head is gay. Well, I was out at that point in time. And she looked at him and said, and you're telling me this why? But before then, one of the other people in my department, actually, she was in my department for a while, but, you know, it's Carla, said that when there was rumors about me going around, they said, well, we don't know, this is back in probably the late 80s, but, you know, he dresses really well. which was the code for we think he might be gay, but we can't say that kind of a thing. So there you go. Another stereotype that gay
Mind
guys
you,
dress
there was a guy I
well.
used to work with in Toronto that was the worst dresser in the world, had awful suits on, terrible stuff and everything. Everybody said, I thought he'd never get married. He ended up getting married to some woman.
Of course, then again, we do know gay men who were gay and got married to a woman. And we've known women who were lesbians and who just decided one day, well, I guess I'm going to marry this guy. So I don't know. See, that's the thing. It's the fluidity. Tracy says she wrote a huge blog post about that, about things. So we'll have to look that up. And she also says metrosexual or hetero. Yes, they are. And then Chris is here. Hi, Chris. We have the term snag, sensitive new age guy. Oh, another term, snag, sensitive new age guy.
Okay, now let's go. What about transsexual?
Okay, so now transsexuals, transvestites, transgendered. Okay, the three trans. First of all, transvestite is an old term. People don't use this now except when watching reruns of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Okay.
Would that be considered cross-dresser now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's always been considered cross-dresser.
Yeah.
But a transvestite is someone who enjoys dressing up as a female, but they do not identify as being a female.
You're talking. You just said transgender. You meant transvestite.
Transvestite. I just said transvestite.
No, you said transgender.
Well, I'll check it on the replay. Whatever. Anyways, transvestite. Yeah, and then I said aren't like never mind. Transvestites don't identify as being female. They just like to dress up in women's clothes, okay, for whatever reason. It is something that gets them turned on. But they still don't necessarily are not sexually attracted to men. They're still sexually attracted to women.
Well, no, hang on. Let's go back to something else.
What?
Sexual attraction is separate from how you feel. Whether let's go to transgender first, okay?
Okay, we can go transgendered again, but transvestite comes first.
Well, why does it come first? Because it's harder to explain. It's easier to explain afterwards.
Because when people think of transgendered people, they think automatically it's some guy in a dress.
No, yeah.
And that they're wrong. Okay, so let's go to transgendered then.
Okay, transgender. It's not just transgender. There's male to female, female to male.
Yes.
Right. So that's
But they're not defining it by saying that.
No, but what I'm saying is that the
transgendered are people who are biologically born one sex, but emotionally, mentally, psychologically associate themselves with the opposite sex. So in other words, they are like a guy who feels he is female, but he's trapped in a male body, and a female who feels like a male, but trapped in a female body.
Okay. Now the complicated part, Yellows, is that sexuality is separate from the way they feel as a person, how they want to dress, or how they want to be presented as.
And that's where it becomes confusing.
Very complicated, because I know a guy that, or she's now a woman, that identified as wanting to be or feeling like they were a woman all their life, but their sexual attraction was always to females, right? So when he was a male, he was married and sexually attracted to females. Now he has become a woman, or she is now a woman, right? She is still sexually attracted to females. The sexuality is separate from how they feel they want to become as a person. So
that gives us a whole bunch of new labels.
Like, so a woman that becomes, so this person that I know that is now a female and is still sexually attracted to females is now what you call trans lesbian.
So if you ever saw the show Transparent, what was that on? Was that Netflix or was that HBO or something, or Showcase?
Showcase, yeah.
The main character in that is a transgendered, and he is a trans lesbian because he still is attracted to women, but he feels himself that he's a woman. a transgendered eventually may or may not actually go through multiple surgeries and and drug therapy in order to reshape their body to represent the sex that they identify with. But not all transgendered people fully go through this. Tell you a story about Mary from Port Perry. Way back when we first got involved in the gay community here in our area, there was a transgendered person, but in those days we didn't use the term transgendered. I think, what did we use?
No, I think we use trans.
Well, I think we just said trans, but it was more leaning towards transvestite, but it really wasn't transvestitism, it was transgendered. Okay, for the sake of anything, this person was transgendered, but this person did very much look like a woman. He went by the pronoun she. I'm not even sure what his male name was, but he always went by Mary. Long hair, like a woman, wore makeup, the whole bit, and did this, I think, in her everyday life as well. It wasn't just a question of being at the bar. He lived his life as a female, except biologically, he still had all men parts. And he had never had, and I should say she, because she never had any surgical alteration as far as that was concerned. She passed away at one point. Her family, they had an open casket funeral, and they dressed her.
They never accepted the fact that
Yeah.
she felt like she was a woman, and so they
Basically buried him as a man.
Yeah, and had an open casket, and we didn't go to the funeral, but people had gone to the funeral and could not identify him because
they had never seen
him as a man.
looking like that as a man. They had, cut his hair, dressed him as a man, the whole bit, which is kind of sad because that's not who he was or who she was. She was Mary. With that. So this is where you get into a lot of problems. And right now in our society, there's still all this controversy about transgendered people and their rights. And, in our country now, at least in our area, you are seeing more and more bathrooms that are marked as unisex. And there's a big controversy about that. Should a transgendered person, say a female to male, okay? Meaning they were born female, but they are living as a male. And as far as they're concerned, they are male. Should they be allowed to use the male bathroom because they don't have male parts? Well, this used to bother me a little bit. I got to think about, because, they're really still kind of like biologically, they're a woman, when they're coming in our bathroom. But then you got to think about it. What's the big controversy? It's a bathroom. People who are going through that transition or who are, say, female to male or male to female, doesn't matter. They're using a cubicle. What are you going to do? Go in and stand there and have a conversation with them in the cubicle? No, I think public washrooms, men's public washrooms anyways, are bizarre, and it should all be cubicles. All washrooms should be nothing but cubicles.
I've recognized that there's a couple of female to male transgendered people that go to my gym, and they use the men's change room. However, I've noticed that they don't shower in there. They change their clothes down to their underwear and then leave.
Yeah. See, I think transgender people are very aware of the fact of how uncomfortable other people might be with them. And I think, I'll give them more credit for this. They're trying to live their true self, but at the same time, they're caught in a world that may not accept them as their true self, but they're trying to be sensitive to what other people may feel. That's got to be a hard road. It really does. And there needs to be done more for recognizing them. But I have to admit that I have trouble with the pronouns. When someone walks up to you, and not all of them will necessarily look the sex they want to be. Sometimes the guys, when they go from male to female, they really need to have somebody out there that can help them with that transition on a physical level, because they're not good at makeup.
Inviting thoughts
And
has,
hair.
I think, transgendered husbands.
My husband has started to grow his hair long. He has breasts. He wears female underwear under his clothes. He works in a very male-oriented world, so he lives on both worlds. He's looking forward to retirement so he can be more female in his everyday life. At the moment, he still accepts himself as he is, but he's looking forward to being she. That is really interesting, Chris. You could probably tell us a lot more about this than we can tell you, because you're living with somebody that's going through this right now. And I am sure there's like hours of discussion right there of how this has affected you, how it's affected your family, how your husband, your partner is proceeding with that. And I'm not even going to pretend that I grasp the real reality around all of this, because I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a problem with it. The only problem I have is if I don't want to inadvertently insult someone who's transgendered by using the wrong pronoun. All right? I have given lectures about this kind of stuff at the college level. I was asked a few years ago to go to a college class and talk about sort of this stuff. I had slides, though. I don't have slides today. You know, I have PowerPoint. And my advice to people, and this was based upon things that I had taken in courses and things, and that was, first thing that you should do when you meet a transgender person, if they don't offer it to you, but usually transgendered people will, to make you comfortable, is ask, how should I address you? And then they'll tell you what pronouns they want to use. Best way to address a transgendered person, I think, is forget about pronouns, learn their name really quick. If their name is Jamie, Jacqueline, Sam, Ralph, whatever, use that all the time. Then you have a harder time slipping into inadvertently saying, oh, he, when you meant she, or vice versa in there, if that makes any sense. But they're fighting now in our country for transgender rights. Well, actually, transgenders do have rights. It was written into our Constitution on that they can't be discriminated against. It says we cannot be discriminated against because of our sexual orientation, whether that's being bi, gay, whatever, and they've also added transgender. So that's already in our laws. So you can't lose your job because you're transgendered. It's unconstitutional in our country, but not all countries in the world, of course, have that. Some are the exact extreme. And Chris says, "Do you have any questions? Ask." Oh, I have lots of questions, Chris, but probably not in today's. But we'll probably have to return to that, because that in itself is a really interesting discussion. And a lot of people try to lump transgendered people in under the with like just gay in general, and that's not the case. Transgenders are not necessarily gay. Okay? And that's where it gets really complex. Again, it's labels. It's labels that make these things complex. You get rid of the labels, it's not complex.
It says, inviting thought said, I fell in love with a man. I realized I loved the person. I love the woman.
I also love the woman. Could you read?
Yeah, no.
He has no interest in having surgeries. He enjoys male to female sex. Okay. You see? That's what I was saying. It's not automatically that he's going to leave. And I think the key in what you just said, Chris, is you love the person. It's the person. And our society seems to be all wrapped up with this whole thing about sexuality, which is, it's more than that. Everybody's more than just sex, really. I mean, we're not a whole bunch of animals out there like going at it like bunnies, although there are some people that do. But yeah, that's really important. You love the person for who they are, not because of their sex. And that's probably where the pansexuals have the right idea, I guess. And then Chris says, there are so many variations of transgenderism. I know, that's why this is beyond the scope of what we're talking about today, because that is a whole big field out there. So that takes us around to, okay, so transgender. Now there's a group, and someone mentioned this before. I think it might have been, was it Laura?
Yeah.
About Two-Spirited. Okay, funny story. You may or may not know what two-spirit are. Okay. Two-spirit is usually a term that is associated with Indigenous people, our Indigenous people. I'm not sure if it's true for all Indigenous people around the world, but at least in Canada, two-spirited associated with our Indigenous people because they do believe there are certain people in their society that have both the feminine and the masculine spirits within one being. Again,
Leslie
this
says, I do, it's Native Americans as well.
yeah. And so this goes beyond sexuality. These people within the Indigenous culture are considered special, and they are not shunned. They are looked at as being to be revered in their society.
Two-spirited were thought of as
It's magical. Yeah. So that's something else, and it's been put in with this whole umbrella of terms in the LGBT community. But this does not mean that a two-spirited person is necessarily, if the two-spirited person is biologically a male, does not necessarily make them automatically gay. Or if the two-spirited person was female, does not automatically mean they're lesbian. So then you bring in the elements of pansexuality or whatever.
Christians squashed two spirits.
Yeah. But you want to know something? The psychologist did not. Because Jung, back in the turn of the last century he had a whole theory of what was called the anima and the animus. And that meant that every human being had both feminine and masculine identities within themselves. And that you pulled on one or the other given a situation you were in, which one would be better able to cope with it. So in some sense, that's being two-spirited as well. And according to Jung, as a psychological state, we all have that in us. As Jungianism, whatever his name is. Jung, Jung. So yeah, that's something totally different. But the little story I was going to tell you about used to belong to a book club with a bunch of teachers. And we were reading this one Canadian novel at one time. And in the book, one of the characters in it was two-spirited. Well, one of the people in our book club is very much an intellectual. And as a discussion point, brought up the two-spirited individual. Well, he thought that the two-spirited individual meant that this person was gay. And
No, I thought he had a big full-on...
Oh, he had a big whole diatribe about... Yeah, that's right. No, yeah, sorry.
He didn't say it was gay.
No. A whole big thing about... Which he didn't... I forget what he said. It was, though, this big philosophical thing about this and what the author was doing with having this character in the book, and it represented this and it represented that and the symbolism of this over here. And I said, no, he's gay. Now, of course, given what I just said, that they not necessarily are gay, but at the time, I just...
It was the simplified version.
A very simplified version. He went, oh. So there went his notes, but about the whole thing. Well, I mean, nothing against this person who thought of all this stuff. He just wasn't aware because most people didn't know what the heck two-spirit was. I didn't know what two-spirit was really until just before that time. Yeah. So, but now it's incorporated in the LGBTQIQQ2SA. So there you are. Laura says, are you speaking of the Morrow Thieves? We are reading this in grade 9 now. No, it was something else, and I can't remember, Laura, what it was called.
I can't remember what it was either.
It had cowboys in it and stuff, and it was out west, and it was Canadian. I can't remember what it was.
I was there at the...
yeah, you were there that time. I don't remember what the heck it was. But anyways, that's two-spirited. So that's the two that you see in the LGBTQIQQ2SA. Now, we didn't talk about non-binary. Okay, this one has me completely mystified. This is relatively new.
Okay, this is why I can take on it. It's just, they don't identify as either male. They do not identify as either male or female. They're somewhere in between.
They just don't identify. But they are not asexual. Okay, asexual means I just don't have sex. But they don't identify with either sex. But they do have pronouns. Their pronoun is, they want to be referred to as them or there. Okay, I have a problem with that as an English teacher's point of view. I think I've mentioned this once before a long time ago. Them is a plural pronoun, meaning more than one. And there is a possessive pronoun, meaning it belongs to those people over there, or their belongings, or the one. I mean,
Well, actually, this is a new term for us because this sort of came out the last few years. Because we always figured that if you're transgendered, you want to be either male or female, right? But they considered them sort of trans, but they don't want to say they're male and they don't want to say they're female.
yeah. So what? To me, their pronoun should be it. But apparently
That's
they don't like
politically
that.
not correct.
They don't really like the word it with that. So yeah, I kind of get it. But I don't, I'm truly going to say I do not understand at all. I think, what I really think it is, and my personal feelings about this are this. They're just poor little lost souls that want to have attention shown on. They want attention. And they're seeking attention in whatever way they can get it. And this is something new and they want to get attention for being non-binary. I call them binomials, but I don't know. That's just because it sounds like a math term. Allure says the novel has a main character as a two-spirit man. So how you handle that in the classroom, Laura? Actually, that wouldn't be that hard to handle. Kids don't, I think, have as much of a problem with it as our generation probably did with it all. Maybe that's the way the non-binary thing will go too. Maybe in 20 years' time it'll be, oh yeah, what? Oh hi.
Well, you know what?
This is them.
In some ways, in the long thing, we've got all these labels. I really don't know if you need to have a label for everything because there's always an exception to the rule for every label.
Yeah.
And
that's the whole point of the shades of gay.
So, well, it's sort of like this thing about gay, bi, whatever, gay, bi, lesbian, whatever, is it doesn't really matter what you are, or who you live with, or who you like.
No, but there are religions in the world who say that it does matter. Because, you're not an abomination because you're gay, or you're an abomination because you're lesbian, or you should be, honored, killed because you aren't fitting the traditional role of male or female in your society or something like that. I mean, give me a break.
Well, we also didn't touch on queer and questioning.
Oh yeah, those ones. Those are the other two in there. And intersex. Okay, so we know what L is. It's lesbian. G is gay. B is bi. T is transgendered. T is transsexual. Okay, we didn't touch on transsexual as opposed to transgendered. Transsexual.
I'm not sure. Do we know what that is?
Yeah. This one I always get confused because it's... Okay, I have a definition sheet with me. Just bear with me for this. Oh, it doesn't say. It's got transgender. Wait, maybe it's buried in here. No, it's not. Transsexual. I'm not even sure if they use the word transsexual anymore.
I don't think I've heard it recently.
But they've got the T in there because that's not for
Or is
two-spirited because they've got two for the two-spirit.
Transvestite?
No, I don't think they ever put
I don't
transvestite
think
in
they
there.
actually do transvestite anymore.
Now, good question. I'm not absolutely sure. So I don't know. Transsexual.
The transvestite is just guys that dress up in women's clothes.
Yeah, they're cross-dressers. So I'm not sure. Anyways, maybe Tracy,
and there's a number of men that, for sexual reasons, they like to dress in women's clothes. So,
oh, that's what transgendered are, I think. Transgendered are guys who like to have sex with other men, but they like to present themselves as female. And they like to be treated like they were a female during sex, whatever that treatment may involve in their mind. I don't know what. Kind of being careful here because this borderline's on kinky, I think. It's kind of confusing. Laura says it's a learning experience and they don't really have an idea about it. Teens today are much less phobic about sexuality. And that's true, they are. Which is a good thing, I think. Okay, so the cues, one is for questioning. Okay, I have a whole problem with that because aren't we all, whether we're gay, straight, or in between, aren't we all questioning at some point in our lives our sexuality? As children, when we enter puberty, aren't we full of questions about sex? And I mean, and how we're going to behave in a sexual world?
Well, maybe the questioning part is people that are uncomfortable with their sexual identity, like we were when we were growing up, and were dating women at one point in time, and because we felt that.
So are you saying then that if, because we were dating women at the time, but we were unsure of ourselves, that we were questioning?
Correct. They were.
You might have been. I wasn't questioning. I just didn't want to
Well,
be gay.
wasn't. Yeah, well, that's sort of questioning, isn't it?
No, that was fighting.
Okay, well, that to me is questioning.
Well, I think what questioning is sometimes used as an excuse to experiment. Okay.
Maybe.
Now, you always hear those stories all the time. They're always on movies and on TV shows, but in real life, I've never heard anybody say this. Oh, you probably, like one girl to another, you probably kissed a girl. Did you like it? Or whatever. Or there was that one time at band camp when, all that kind of stuff. But in real life, I have never ever met anybody in real life that has actually ever said to me that
I'm questioning.
that they were questioning.
Yeah.
And I mean when I was younger, too.
Maybe that's where the one term curious comes from.
Maybe. Well, that's the other term then. Well, but that's not included.
No.
I mean, maybe questioning includes being curious. But then you hear expressions like bi-curious. What is bi-curious? You can't make a commitment. You're either bi or you're not. How can you be bi-curious? I'm curious about a lot of things. Like,
No, they're straight or they're heterosexual, but they're curious about homosexuality.
yeah, so the excuse was their girlfriend caught them having some fun with a guy, and he goes, "Oh, I'm just bi-curious, honey. I just wanted to see what it'd be like. That's all."
Okay, and then there's a new term I read a little while ago called heteroflexible.
That just sets up a vision of a gymnast in my head, bent over backwards. I don't know. Yeah, what was it?
Heteroflexible.
Yeah, heteroflexible.
That means that you're heterosexual, but you sometimes have sex with the same sex.
Well, then there's the term heteronormative. What's this heteronormative?
There's also
means?
homoflexible.
Oh, God. See? It just gets more complicated all the time. So the second Q is for queer. Hate it. Still don't understand it. When we were kids, you said, wow, he's really queer. Meant weird. Different. Now, apparently, queer means probably gay or lesbian or, part of the whole
There's a group
alphabet.
I don't know if that's still accepted much, but there's a period of time a few years ago there were a whole group of people that wanted to be called queer.
I hate the
I'm
word.
not sure why, because queer always sounds like you're weird.
Well, queer has a negative connotation to it because its original meaning, queer, is strange, unexplained, different, weird. Okay.
I mean, when I was growing up, people would call flamboyant, feminine gay men as queers.
Yeah.
And
it was a derogatory term.
To me, that's a derogatory term, sort of like faggot, right?
But apparently there was this whole movement, or so they would tell you in the media, where the gay community, the LGBTQ community, were taking back the word queer as something positive. I don't understand how you can take a word back in our language. I understand how language works. That's what I taught. I understand how the English language changes. All languages, living languages, evolve with time. I mean, take, for example, the expression back in the 1980s, 90s, where a young kid would come up and see something they really like and go, "Oh, wow, man, that's really sick." Sick did not mean a disease, an illness, whatever. It meant cool. Okay. And over time, as that expression got used more and more, it became more accepted as meaning being a slang word for something that someone really likes or appreciates. Okay? Maybe the word queer over another generation, if it's used enough in a specific context, maybe too, it will change its meaning as well. But for me, it'll never change. I do not identify as a queer man. And there are young people now that identify. They don't say they're gay or, pansexual or anything like that. They say, I'm a queer male. Does that mean you're a little wacko? What? I don't know.
So, Inviting Thoughts says queer is an umbrella term for sexual and gender minorities who are
not heterosexual and are not cisgender, originally meaning strange or peculiar. Yeah. But the gay world wants to take it back, or is trying to take it back, as a positive term. I don't think that's the term. Not right now. As I said, in another generation, maybe it will be. Virginia says, I just don't understand the change in using the word queer from derogatory to self-proclaiming themselves in a positive way either. Yeah, that's my problem with it. I don't get it, and I never will. I'm sorry, I'm an old dog. You can't teach me new word tricks. Okay, simple as that.
Says, Inviting Thought says queer came to be used
pejoratively against those with same-sex desires relationships in the late 19th century. It is included as some still identify as queer and not gay. Yes, I have read that, seen that, but what I'm saying is it's one thing for a textbook to tell you this, it's another thing to live it. And really, that brings me right back to why we're having this whole discussion. We're talking about, this is stuff we live every day. And I'm sorry, but we're closer to this stuff than the general straight populace. Okay? Because we have to deal with these terms. Because we have been called some of these terms, and they're wrong. They're not us. It's all goes back to labels and stereotypes as well. But to go back to the word queer, I will never accept that word as a positive word. I don't care who tries to spin it as being something positive and what the philosophy is behind it. I will never accept it. I can't accept it. It was a word that was used against me for many, many, many years.
And it was derogatory.
And it was definitely derogatory.
Somebody would yell at you, literally, when we walked in downtown Toronto in the 80s and stuff like that.
Hey, look at the effing queers!
Yeah.
Except they filled in the F.
Or look at the faggots.
Yeah. Now, I know that people half our age will get on their high horses and go, well, yeah, but we have to do this and we have to do that and blah, 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 blah. And I have a problem with that, and that's a discussion for another day. And this is where the difference becomes from when you're at this age level and when you're at this age level. And you think you know everything at this age level. We all did. But when you get to this age level, you realize how stupid you were at that age level. The whole bit. And this is what the gay community has become with the youngsters that are now in it. And I call them youngsters on purpose, because when I call somebody a youngster, I'm actually using that in a somewhat of a negative way, meaning you're young, you don't have a clue about anything, shut up right now, okay? And don't anybody get on their high horse and say, we can learn a lot from the youth. I was a teacher. I know exactly what you can learn from the youth. Not a lot, okay? But when I was that age, I thought I knew it all too. So I know that of which I speak when it comes to that.
So then back to all these labels, I don't know if we really need all these labels.
We don't need these labels. This is the problem in our society. Now, there's two others we did not tackle yet.
Oh.
The S is very, I don't know why it's in there. Because now when they added the S means straight. And A means allies. People who are friends of people in the LGBT community. they're allies. They're positive, and the world needs more allies. But I have a problem with the whole concept of ally. Why is it that I need people to be out there and fight my battle? If they're doing it for the right reasons. But an awful lot of these people that say they're allies are just people who just want to get on the bandwagon.
Yeah, Prezi says, I thought Q was questioning. There's two Qs, actually.
There's two Qs.
One is questioning and one is queer.
Yeah, it's LGBTTIQQ2SA. Oh, I. We didn't deal with I. I don't even know why I is in here. Because I is intersex, and it's actually from my knowledge of it, some people are born with both female and male genitalia. And at some point in their life, and it usually happens right after they're born, somebody makes a decision, usually it's in consultation with the parents, where they decide what sex they're going to be. So are they going to have a fully functioning vagina, or are they going to have a fully functioning penis? One has to go. Now they're saying that basically these people should be allowed to mature and at a certain age level make a decision for themselves if they want to be one way or the other. But I'm not even sure how that works biologically, because I don't know if that screws up things with your system. I mean, are you born with totally, fully functioning? Like, do you have both
I think
ovaries and testes? What?
I know. I think depending on the situation, some are more male and some are more female, and so they sometimes make a choice at birth.
No, Laura. Asexuality does not mean intersex. Intersex is actually the physical, being born.
I thought she meant the A was asexual.
No, it's ally. No. Funny though, they should put in another A.
Yeah, you think they're...
Actually, there may be a longer one yet out there because they keep adding to it. So, I mean, this is the one I got most recently off the internet. But who knows? They're probably adding more letters, which in itself becomes a joke. Like, the joke is, why don't we put every letter of the alphabet in there for it? Actually, keep adding letters to it because eventually this whole term is going to disappear because it's just going to be too much for people to handle. So there you go.
Okay, I'm not sure why. Inviting Thoughts just wrote something in
According to the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, do not fit the typical definitions for male or female bodies. Do not. Is that intersex? Intersex do not fit the typical definitions for male or female bodies? Is that what you mean, Chris? That's what I think you mean.
Yeah.
Let us know one way or the other. But what I'm getting at here is, isn't this ridiculous? Really? Who's going to go around and go, hi, I'm a member of the LGBTTIQQ2SA community. By the time you say that, they've walked away, moved on.
You can just say I'm not straight.
Oh, yeah, she says, first comment above that one.
Asexuality?
Okay. Really, chat mode sometimes isn't the best way to go on here because it gets confusing. But, okay, so, Chris, do you mean that the do not fit the typical definition for male or female bodies is what they say is intersex? Is that what we're talking about? I think that's what we're talking about. Yes, she says. Yay. Okay, we're on the same page. Good. We've got that. So, bottom line of all this stuff is this. Labels. So where do we fit in? You can't label us. I refuse to be labeled. First of all, my identity does not depend upon the fact that I'm gay. The first thing I say to people when I'm introduced to them is, hi, I'm gay and my name is Stephen. No, never happens. No, my name is Stephen. Oh, so then how do you identify people? I don't tell them I'm gay. Never do. I don't go, oh, hi, my name is Stephen. I'm a retired English teacher and I happen to be gay. No, doesn't usually come up.
Or I'm openly gay.
Or I'm openly gay.
Well, see, that's the thing I have a problem with now in society is that they'll say so-and-so's the mayor of this city and he's openly gay.
Yeah.
What does his
What does that have to do?
sexuality have anything to do with him as a person?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't go and say, oh, there's so and so and he's openly heterosexual.
But I do blame it on society that make people feel that they need to present an identification by saying that I am gay. Because first of all, the gay community has been really hard pressed since we got in Canada anyways, protected by our Constitution, able to marry, same-sex marriages, able to adopt. Oh my God, we've become just like everybody else in society. Oh my God, we spent decades fighting to be accepted like everybody else. Now that we are, for the most part in our country, okay, I'm talking about our country, Canada. It's not that way in other countries in the world. We know that. Now we don't feel special anymore. So some people have to feel special by announcing that, oh, and I'm openly gay, or I'm bi-curious, or I'm transgender, or I'm non-binary. So suddenly the labels are becoming a symbol of why you should think I'm special. I'm not special because I'm gay. I just happen to like dick. What can I say? It's as simple as that. Okay? There you are. So anyways, we don't need the labels. And as soon as you label somebody, well, you've pigeonholed them, and obviously you're not able to see beyond the label in order to get to know them as a person. And that's really what it comes down to, right? And I think that's going back to what Chris said about her husband. She fell in love with the person. She didn't fall in love with the sexual orientation or all of that. That's all secondary to it. So I think that's what's important out of it all, right? Chris says, I agree 100%. Laura says, I don't think people do the labels anyway. Where you been, Laura? I don't know. In the world I travel in, those labels are never very far away. Turn on the news. Let's just go beyond for a second here. This whole thing about the gay world. There's labels for everything now. Look, we label politicians. We label people in our society. We label people according to religion, race, creed, sexual orientation. Our society is full of labels. We can't get away from the labels. I don't know if we ever will as a society. Because labels create prejudice, racism, all kinds of other things too. So, but also on the other side of things, I think we use labels because it's a starting ground. It gives us some idea of how to relate to somebody we don't know, is if we can give them a label. Like, our jobs are labels. Hi, I'm a teacher. Immediately, people who don't know, you go, oh, teacher, okay, questioning.
I'm a principal.
Oh, principal. Oh, well, we know what kind of. I'm a lawyer. Oh, okay, be careful here. This one's smart. I'm a doctor. Oh, okay, you know this and that. Like, yeah, our society's full of labels. So I don't think we can escape it. Laura says, gender is a social concept according to one of my fave authors. Gender is a social concept.
What's your favorite author?
That's pretty deep. Gender
What's your
is
favorite
a
author?
social concept. Hi, Nairi. Queen's birthday, public holiday day, even though her birthday is in April. Yeah, we just had her birthday. It was on the 24th
It's
of May
Queen's
here.
birthday every day.
Yeah, it's Queen's birthday every day. Some queen out there. Greta's here. Hi, Greta. Just live the way you want to live. It's nobody else's business. Yeah, exactly. It isn't. But unfortunately, all of these things we could say. I'm still working on this one with Laura says, gender is a social concept. Yeah?
Her name is
I guess
Chimamanda.
Chinamanda. Oh my
Okay.
God. Okay, that one I have to look up. I'm just trying to decipher gender as a social concept. A social concept meaning that gender is actually put upon us. I think Actually, I think what I would say is the description of gender is a social concept.
She's Nigerian.
Because, yeah. Because what is a man? What is a woman? We call a woman because biologically this is what she has. We call a man because it's biologically what he has. If it wasn't a social concept, then it wouldn't matter. The woman could be going out and killing the beasts and dragging them home, and the man could be at home with the fire in the cave, getting dinner ready and dusting a few of the knick-knack rocks and stuff like that. But social concept means that we have assigned roles. We have assigned labels. So males have to act a certain way, females have to act in a certain way, and we bring this all the way back to what I said at the very beginning of all of this, right? That it's all about labels. And so, yes, I agree. Gender is a social concept, the description of what gender is. Biologically, we can't do anything about it. Women are born one way, men are born another way in terms of what their plumbing is. Simple as that. And that happens in the animal kingdom. She goes, yes, exactly. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Oh, that's deep. I'm getting a headache now. Aspirin. Okay, so anyways, that was kind of a deep conversation today. And thank you for those of you that put your 2 cents in worth. Not going to pretend we know everything about this.
No. And we're all still learning.
And I think the bottom line, what we've probably learned about all this is forget labels. They're just too complicated, and let's just accept people for who they are. Easier said than done, I know. But yeah, in this day and age. But, you know, we don't need it. So that's pretty much our time today, and we didn't freeze up, and that's a really good thing. And I have no idea if that's because we were just lucky today or it's the new concept we're using
what's
here.
the topic for next week?
I don't know. I was thinking of that. What should we talk about next? Anybody got some suggestions? We take a couple of seconds here and just throw out some ideas, things that we can go in and exploit. And, you know, we could be wrong about, but you can correct us. Laura says she has 2 TED Talks you can watch. Oh, okay. Oh, maybe look her up. So I don't know. We don't want to make this whole thing all the time about being gay. No, that was just happened to be
For a starter.
And also because there have been people that have had questions out there and whatnot. So what would you like to talk about in the future? What can we shed light on and or not shed light on? I don't know. I was trying to think what might be of interest to people. We were talking
Without necessarily being nasty.
Yeah.
Criticize anybody or anything.
Chris says, how about teaching and teachers? Okay, that's one idea. Yeah, well, I have a lot to say about that. I could tell you lots of horror stories, so could Laura, I'm sure. And I don't know, I think there's a few other people here that probably have experiences with that. Throw in education, yes. Other topics we thought we might talk about in the future too is possibly travel from our point of view. We have talked about travel before, but what I was going to talk about is more or less attitudes towards travelers. Well, Steve and I could tell stories. Oh, Laura says, yeah, yes, we can tell lots of stories, Laura. Travel also sounds good. Chris says, anybody else got some ideas of things that we might look into? We would find a twist to it. That's the whole point here. Because
what's it like to be retired?
Yeah, we can talk about retiredness. Retired life. Yeah, Andy says what it's like to be retired. Yeah, okay. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of topics here. So we will talk amongst ourselves and figure out what we'll talk about next week. And Laura says, yeah, she's got 4 years left before retirement. You only have 4 years left, Laura? Jeez. How time flies.
Time will fly by.
Yeah. Okay, so great. That's our time. We didn't freeze. That's great. And we'll see everybody next week. I don't think everything's changed from next week, right? We're good next weekend. Yes. So is next weekend Father's Day weekend?
I think it is.
Ooh, I don't know. Okay, in Canada, I think next Sunday is Father's Day. I'm not sure how it is in other parts of the world, whether it's Father's Day or not. But we'll just carry on anyways because we don't need fathers anymore anyway, so what the hell. With that. And
we're not fathers.
And we're not fathers, so Why do we give up? You know. But anyways, okay, we'll see everybody next week, and have a good week, and talk to you all later. Oh yeah, and we'll be talking about the Canadian National Quilting Show next week too. So bye bye for now.
Bye.